All right, go ahead, Camille. Awesome, thank you so much. Well, hi everybody. Thank you so much for hopping on today. The Office of Campus Sustainability is super excited to have you all here. So welcome to Sustainable Transportation at Wayne. This is a talk that is a part of Green Street, which is the Office of Campus Sustainability's celebration of sustainability in higher education. So all month we've had talks and in-person events and tours planned for students, staff, and faculty at the university to kind of expose them to what's happening at the university when it comes to sustainability. So today we'll be talking about transportation, sustainable transportation, including alternative and public forms of transportation. So I'm going to go ahead and advance the slide and just briefly introduce our speakers today and what we have rolled out for you all as agenda goes. So firstly, my name is Leah Komos. I am a project manager within the Office of Campus Sustainability. I'm a recent Wayne State grad, and I've worked alongside the sustainability office as I've been kind of going to school. So I've been working with our speakers, the folks that you see here on screen, John, Emily, and Sherelle, these past couple of months to help advance sustainable transportation at the university. So today we'll really be kind of talking about what the Office of Campus Sustainability has done, as well as what each of these individuals are doing when it comes to transportation. And then at the end of the talk, we will open it up for a discussion and kind of a Q&A, a chance for all of you to kind of ask your questions and speak with who we have here today. So before I advance to the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about the Office of Campus Sustainability. For those that aren't familiar with our office, we really focus on projects that have to do with making Wayne State University more sustainable. So that includes projects around transportation, reducing our carbon impact by reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that come from transportation at the university. That includes everybody commuting to campus. So transportation, water, food, recycling, a lot of projects we work on in the office that have to do with all those things. So we really work to promote public and alternative forms of transportation. So in the past, we've created campus bike maps that have highlighted bike lanes, bike fix-it stations, as well as bike shops in the area. Each year, we usually host educational group bike rides. For Green Street this past year, we actually hosted a bike ride in collaboration with the Sierra Club that took participants around campus in the Midtown community and brought them to different green infrastructure sites for them to get the chance to kind of learn more about our built environment and the sustainability components that are situated within it. And along those efforts, we've also been writing the next sustainability strategic plan for the university. And that is a comprehensive plan that really outlines the sustainability goals and projects for Wayne State as a whole. So in that plan, we have included a transportation section, which really outlines how we're going to continue to support a lot of the efforts that we're going to talk about today. So that is planned to release next year. Keep your eyes out for that. And we really, this is a good opportunity, for all of you to kind of ask questions about stuff like that in our plan and how we can really put together something that would be, helpful for not only, for every individual, at the university, because transportation is a huge part of that. So just a little intro for the Office of Campus Sustainability. And then I did want to share some campus commuting trends to kind of inform our talk today. So in 2018, the Office of Economic Development at Wayne State and the Department of Parking and Transportation conducted a campus travel survey, and they collected the commuting trends of 3,600 students, staff, and faculty at Wayne State. So in that survey, they found these following trends, and I'll kind of just jump into each of them. And I forgot to mention in the beginning, if anybody has questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We can address them at the end of our talk or while we're kind of discussing throughout the talk today. So the first bullet point here is, it says majority single occupancy. So what does that mean? That means that the majority of folks that are commuting to campus are commuting to campus in a single vehicle. So 64% of total commuters drive alone in a car to get to campus. Secondly, traveling often, 60% of our commuters travel to campus very frequently, 4 to 7 days a week. And then the last one is that people are coming from all different areas in Metro Detroit. Roughly 70% of commuters travel between 10 and 25 plus miles, where 30%, the smaller minority, roughly travel between 0 and 10 miles. So Wayne State is kind of the major takeaway of this, and why I'm sharing it is really to kind of talk through some of these commuting trends with our speakers today, and how we might be able to promote alternative forms of transportation to be able to kind of bring these numbers down to an extent, because Wayne State is a majority commuter college. We are situated in the Metro Detroit region, which is a place where there are a lot of cars, but there's also a lot of public transportation. So we really want to be able to share those resources with you today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody's faces here. And I'm going to introduce our first guest today and jump into the questions that I have. So I'll be kind of monitoring the chat as we go, so we can kind of incorporate some student feedback and participant feedback as we start today. So welcome, Jon Frederick. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you could introduce yourself to the audience, as well as your kind of describe your role and what the Department of Parking Transportation oversees at Wayne State.
Thank you, Leah. This is really a nice forum to be able to kind of talk about things and tell everybody about what we do. Parking and Transportation oversees quite a bit on campus when it comes to the ins and outs of people's needs. We are actually, though, I wanted to point out first that we're an auxiliary department. So we are, what that means is that we're self-funded. We get all our revenues basically from our parking revenues to run the department. So when I say parking and transportation, it's definitely clearly two different hats that we have to wear to run the department. We don't receive any tuition dollars or general funds, and we actually oversee all the parking on campus, the daily parking, semester parking, the event parking. We also oversee most of the transportation aspects on campus, including the Wayne State's fleet of vehicles, Wayne State shuttles, external buses, and also the alternative transportation. In my role, really, I help to steer the ship straight, or try to keep it straight when it comes to providing direction as to the team's operation needs, financial and budgeting, expenses, both short and long term, and then amongst a host of other things that we do. I can say that recently the COVID has really put a big challenge on our department in general, but I think we've kind of gotten through this, and now we're looking to the light on the other side of the tunnel.
Yeah, in terms of COVID, I mean, you've seen a large decrease in folks that are getting to campus, and that has, considering you are an auxiliary department, really affected your services day to day. Can you talk a little bit more on that and how you all have, moving into this year, kind of, I guess, remain resilient like a lot of people have in the pandemic, and changed from what you saw last year?
Well, so prior to COVID, we were probably about a $15 million budget department, and that covered pretty much all of our expenses, all of our purchases, all of our utilities, all of our major construction, Now we're probably we're hoping to be about 60% of that this year. But we went a whole year and a half without that. So we lost pretty much that whole funding source. So we had to right size. We had to lay folks off. Unfortunately, we had to do some cut downs. We had to stop, close some parking structures during the time just to make ends meet and be financially able to come out of it on the other end. It was challenging, but I think that the university in whole and the department weathered it fairly well, but I can't say it wasn't challenging.
Yeah, of course, of course. So my second question talks a little bit about how parking transportation has worked with the Office of Campus Sustainability to expand electric vehicle infrastructure on campus. So can you talk a little bit about how your department is expanding that and how you're trying to make it more accessible for folks that do have electric vehicles that come to campus?
Yeah, I'd love to. A matter of fact, we actually have 10 electric vehicle chargers on campus right now. We have more than most folks, across much of Michigan, and even competing against our if you want to call them competitor schools, we outdo them at most locations. So pretty proud of that to be an early starter. But we really work with the campus sustainability team, as you know, and we also work with the director of energy to take advantage. Right now, we're really working to take advantage of DTE's energies incentives and infrastructure for rebates and really to look at adding more chargers throughout the campus. We have currently have 7 team members, including 3 students from the Office of Sustainability, which is wonderful. We got Jenna, Grace, and Julia, who have been great. I mean, all 3 of them have been fantastic with their efforts towards looking at what's available from DTE, looking at available what's in the the EV chargers, deciding what we need in the charger, what we don't need in the charger, and then we have 3 directors and associate director also on the team. Daryl Pearson from Office of Sustainability. We got Paul Bernard, the director of energy. We got myself, and also Damon Wade, our associate director, who I can't say enough about everybody who's been on the team. I mean, we're looking at this and their rules and their enthusiasm with this whole project, because it's coming. We know the electric vehicles are coming. We know that we want to be more sustainable on campus, and we want to do what we can. And it's great that DTE has some incentives in place to help us out. To give you a little idea about that, is the project looks to move towards having 100 level 2 EV chargers on campus. And if all goes well, we may even look into doing a possible level 3 rapid charge somewhere on campus too. We're not sure about that yet, but it's one of those things that as I look at it, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right things for the campus and making every effort we can.
Yeah, thank you. DTE plays a huge role in what we are able to achieve and not able to achieve. Can you talk just a little bit more about those rebates that they're offering and the partnership that's there?
We're trying to take full advantage of their total rebate system, which they are allowing up to 100 EVs on the rebate system. So we're trying to take care of that. And it's a substantial rebate. I think it's off the top of my head, I believe it's $1,200 per EV charger, which is a substantial amount. Your EV chargers, depending on the bells and whistles that you get on them, can run anywhere from $1,500 to $4,500. Now, that doesn't cover the infrastructure to put them in place either. I mean, that can be the expensive part. So DTE is working with us too to cover some of that infrastructure cost, because we've had some meters that we have had installed now that I think it costs us around $3,000, $3,500 at the ones we have in place now. But it's cost us somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 just to install them, pulling the electricity to where they're at, doing the wiring, having the electricians come in, depending on how they were set up. depending on if we even had enough power to run them. And that's one of the things that we are concerned about too. And DTE is going to work with us from that regards to make sure we have enough power, and then make sure the infrastructure is there that we can pull from to put the EV chargers in place.
Awesome, thank you. And there's actually a question in the chat from Todd Scott. Are there any plans for e-bike charging stations on campus?
Currently, there is not right now, but that doesn't mean that we won't look at that. And you know, our priority right now is towards the utilizing the incentives based on the EV, the actual vehicle chargers. But we can definitely look at that in the long run for sure.
Thank you. I had just one more follow-up question about DTE because they are offering all these programs, you know, for us and other organizations and businesses. Has there been any talk about potentially with the energy that they are providing for the electric vehicle charging stations, is that energy coming from any alternative energies other than a coal?
There is talk about using the and buying into some other alternative energy sources, renewable energies, you know, including solar and wind generated. However, what's currently in place right now is really not hitting our section of the system. We have actually, Paul Bernard and I have talked quite extensively in regards to looking at maybe some solar panel sites and you know, maybe above the parking garages or maybe in a big parking lot, you know, to where we can utilize that and sell some of that back to or give some of that back to us or put it back on the grid itself. So there's a lot of that discussion going on. I mean, we're having discussions almost weekly when it comes to talking with DTE.
Great, thank you. And I have one last question for you, John. I'll also monitor the chat if anybody else has any further questions, but it is, what challenge does parking and transportation encounter when it comes to supporting more sustainable and alternative transit on campus? Kind of share just a little bit from your perspective about that.
Well, I gotta say the first thing I gotta say is the university's generally been very good about supporting us in all of our sustainability initiatives. The one thing that does come up, you know, is that we were involved in the first Zipcar brought to Detroit. So the Zipcar program from Detroit. The university supported us. I've been around with the university for a long time, so I was involved in that and getting them established in Detroit and in the surrounding area. And now they're all over Michigan, as most people know. Zipcar has really expanded and it's across the world actually. But it was kind of nice that the university was very supportive in bringing them into there. So I mean, that's just one example of how they've been supportive in that regards. Some of the biggest challenges though have always been in regards to funding, and that's a challenge I think with everything as we look forward, is where do the funds come from to be able to provide these programs, to offer these other alternatives. And it's you know, we're going to continue to work on those. We're going to continue to monitor, and I know the university is talking about ways of you know, providing additional funding to do so. They just came up with the funding literally earlier this year. They came up with the funding to provide the DART pass and the MOGO pass, the free use pass, which is just wonderful. I mean, I can't say how much I appreciate seeing that happen from the university. So it's a great thing that they were able to do that.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that pass when we pass it over to Emily. But I just wanted to follow up with what you were saying about Zipcar. Could you explain what a Zipcar is, and if there's any plans to expand rideshare or van pool services?
Well, we actually Zipcar is basically a short-term rental vehicle that includes your gas and your insurance, and it's valid for anybody who's 18 and older. And they can utilize the plan. You just need to go to zipcar.wayne.edu and they can get you squared away and you can sign up for the program and they'll get you situated. There is a small annual fee, but you get that back. Most of the time you get that back in your daily rentals. how we go into to step into like van pool and the other information. Right now, we don't do a lot of van pools. We don't do a lot of car pools. There is a couple systems out there that we utilize. Semcog is one that we kind of jump on. The Michivan, who is a big sponsor of Michivan, utilizes that. And we try to, if anybody looks for something that in those categories, we try to push them that direction so they can utilize those services.
Fantastic. Awesome. And I was just pulling up actually the SEMCOG site because for those that are interested in Vanpool and learning a little bit more about your commute and kind of planning your route if you would like to use public transportation, that is a wonderful resource, especially just for us regionally. But thank you so much, John. Really appreciate you answering those questions. If anybody has another question for John, please drop it in the chat and we can talk a little bit more after we are wrapped up for today. But I'd like to introduce our second guest now, which is Emily Thompson. Emily, thank you so much for hopping on today. It's really great to have you here. Could you talk a little bit about your current role at the university, as well as really what you oversee within your office, and then also the kind of the transportation, Wayne rides and the transportation projects that the Office of Economic Development oversees as well?
Happy to, Leah. Thanks for having me today. So my name is Emily Thompson. I am the Director of Economic and Community Development in the Office of Economic Development here at Wayne State, which is kind of a mouthful. We're a division that many are not familiar with because we're largely externally facing. We were created in 2011 to lead the university's efforts to stimulate growth in our Midtown neighborhood and in the city. And we do that with a focus on business, talent, and place. So we do a lot of work around entrepreneurship. We house the Detroit Revitalization Fellows Program. And then our place work is really about helping to create a vibrant neighborhood and campus that's really integrated. So since 2011, working closely with parking and transportation and others around Wayne State, we've played a major role in helping to diversify transit options for the Wayne State community and for Detroiters more broadly. So MoGo Detroit's bike share system launched out of our office. We did the feasibility study for that here at Wayne State. Before that, moved over to the Downtown Detroit Partnership as an independent nonprofit. As John mentioned, the university and OED was a part of this, helped bring Zipcar not only to campus, but to Detroit and to the state of Michigan. We were key partners in the M1 rail, which is now the Q-Line streetcar, and the Midtown Greenway Loop. So we've been doing a lot of work around transit since our office was created in 2011. To try to make this a little bit less confusing for the campus community, we started doing this work under the Wayne Rides brand. So for students and staff, you don't necessarily have to know who the Office of Economic Development is or where we're located. You just need to know that Wayne Rides is your one-stop shop for information on all things transportation and mobility at Wayne State. We do this in partnership with parking and transportation and the Dean of Students and others. In terms of why we do this work, we know that public transit has big community benefits, including improved quality of life and economic vitality. So investments in transit tend to lead to economic growth. The American Public Transportation Association reports that for every dollar invested in transit, generates about $4 in returns in terms of new jobs, higher performing businesses, and increased property value. So that's really sort of how we started in this space. We now know, having done this work for a decade, that it's also deeply connected to the student success efforts at the university, right? This is about getting students and staff to campus, making it easy and affordable for them to do so. It's also connected to the sustainability efforts of Wayne in that riding public transit is one of the best things that you can do to reduce your carbon footprint. Again, I'm going to go to the American Public Transportation Association for the data there, but they estimate that one person commuting by public transit can save about 4,800 pounds of CO2 a year, which is roughly 9% of the average American's carbon footprint. So it's far more effective than, say, switching out the lighting in your home or reducing your water use from a sustainability perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. Really appreciate that. There's a little bit to draw out and unpack there, but thank you so much. So can you talk about a little bit more about Wayne Rides, and really you mentioned that it's the one-stop shop. What does that really aim to achieve? And how does Wayne Rides work with, I guess, is there any other collaborations that Wayne Rides might have outside of the Office of Economic Development and Parking Transportation that have really helped them kind of achieve their goals?
Absolutely. So the goal of Wayne Rides is to increase warrior knowledge and use of local transit. So I mentioned, early on, a lot of the work that the Office of Economic Development was doing was about diversifying options, right? Introducing MOGO, investing in the queue line, bringing Zipcar to campus. All of that is incredibly important. But we recognized that students and staff weren't necessarily taking advantage of all of the options that do exist. And so we wanted to kind of get back to basics and make sure that we were informing the campus community about those options. And really beyond that, getting them comfortable riding or using some of these. So we established Wayne Rides after we brought on a campus transportation ambassador, a student assistant, to help us think through how we better communicate some of these options to the campus community. She was the one who said, it's a little bit confusing on where do you go for information? Do you go to parking and transportation? Do you go to the individual providers or offerings? Do you go to economic development? What if we simplified it and we just created Wayne Rides as kind of this one-stop shop? And then through Wayne Rides, created communication, marketing and promotion materials, but also what if we did some events that invited students and staff to try some of these different systems in a really comfortable and safe way? So if you've never ridden the bus, it can be a little bit intimidating. What if you met up with the campus transportation ambassador and a group of other students, and you rode DDOT for the first time and you went to the grocery store in Southwest, or you went downtown to hit a coffee shop and spend some time in campus Marsh's Park, or around the holidays, the campus transportation ambassadors have taken students out to Somerset to do some holiday shopping. So really trying to break down, increase information sharing and break down any barriers that we've been able to identify. Wayne Rides has partnered with a number of groups on campus. So again, we recognize that riding public transportation is far more affordable than owning a car. And so from that perspective, it's deeply connected to student success on campus. Students who were riding public transit were often paying per trip. And so they were being very mindful about when they came to campus and for what, by making over time, passes available. We heard from students who were already riding that they were coming to campus more if the service was free. We also heard from students that, moving to public transportation from driving was saving them money that then they were able to use for other things like books. Connected there in that sense to folks on the academic side of the university and the provost office and in some of the different learning communities. Warrior VIP and other programs like that. We also have worked for a number of years now with the Student Senate. They have been a huge advocate for expanding transportation options on campus. The Office of Economic Development actually first partnered with DDOT in 2014 to make some free bus passes available to students who were living on campus. We've done it as kind of a one-off, right? We gave students living in the dorms free passes in the month of September to try to encourage them to use DDOT. Did some surveying around that, did it again the following year. Over time, we ended up switching it up based on some feedback that we got from the students who were using the passes, but also from Senate. So we moved to October and February. We started to include SMART in that, and then eventually expanded to a pilot through the food pantry where we made free passes available year round. That would not have been possible without the Student Senate that actually worked with us very closely on the proposal to the provost to fund that pilot. And that pilot is the reason that this fall we were able to expand that benefit to all students and staff, because it gave us the data we needed to show that, in fact, this is a real benefit to the campus community and something that the university should consider investing in. I think that covers all the
questions. No, it absolutely
but I'm
does.
happy to circle back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. So talk more about this really exciting advancement that has happened in the past couple of months. We have a number of public transportation options that are now free for students, staff, and faculty on campus. So you mentioned it, but talk a little bit more about that, as well as how can we access these materials. I dropped a link to the Wainwright's website in the chat, where a lot of those links to access the public transportation are at. But if anybody has also questions about these existing forms of transportation, please drop them in the chat too. We can talk a little bit about it right now.
Great. So this fall, we were really excited. We were actually hoping to make this announcement last fall, and the pandemic shifted our plans a little bit. But this fall, we were really excited to be able to make 2-hour DART passes and annual MOGO passes available to students and staff at no cost. So these are available to all students and staff, both full and part-time. And they allow them to ride for free on DDOT, SMART, and the Q line. So that's DART is a unified payment system for those 3 services: DART, SMART, and the Q line. And then MOGO, which is Detroit's bike share system. The way that it works, so for DART, students and staff need to download the DART app and then enroll in the Wainwright's eligibility program. In order to do that, you need an eligibility code that you request from Wayne State. The easiest way to sign up is to go to the Wainwright's page and follow the prompts. There's a link right at the top of the page that says click here for an eligibility code. You fill out a Microsoft form with your access ID and password, and then you'll get an email from Parking and Transportation with that code and detailed instructions on how to put it into the app. That Wainwright's page also includes a video on how to download the app, and it includes a video on how to use the transit app to plan trips on DDOT, SMART, and the Q line. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible there. MOGO is even more simple than that. You just go to mogodetroit.org/WSU. And again, this is linked to the Wainwright's page. So all you need to know is get to the Wainwright's page and you'll follow the prompts from there. But you go to the MOGO site and then you sign up using your wayne.edu email address. MOGO sends you a confirmation email and you follow the prompts from there. So the MOGO pass is an annual pass. It's good for 12 months from the date that you sign up. And it allows you to take an unlimited number of 60-minute trips for free. And then the eligibility program for DART allows you to take purchase up to 3, I'm sorry, I said 2-hour passes earlier. They're 4-hour passes. So essentially you can ride any one of those DDOT, SMART, or the Q line for 12 hours throughout the course of the day. So it should be enough to get every student and staff to and from campus, regardless of class schedule, and even potentially out to do something fun in the city at the end of the day. So that's how you sign up. I do know there was a question about how it's been going so far. We do have data from the first month. So again, we launched this program right around September 1st, just a little bit before we tried to get it up and running for Festival, because we did have the providers on campus at that event, and we were able to do that. So it was just before September 1st, but roughly in the month of September, we had 400 students purchase DART passes. They took almost 2,000 trips, with 10% of those users purchasing 20 or more passes. So 10% of riders were pretty frequent riders, particularly given that a number of Wayne State classes are still being offered online this semester or virtually. We had 700 students and staff sign up for an annual MOGO pass in the month of September. They took over 2,500 trips and made 2 of the campus serving MOGO stations the most popular stations in the entire MOGO system, which we were really excited about. So the stations at Cass and Hancock and at Kirby and 3rd or Anthony Wayne Drive were really well used by the campus community. And as of yesterday, there's now a brand new station immediately outside the Mike Ilitch School of Business, which we're hoping will be really well used as well. It makes it, maybe a 7-minute ride from sort of the heart of main campus to Mike Ilitch, which is awesome.
That's fantastic. Wonderful news. Thank you so much for sharing those updates. That is Great news. I applaud that. So thank you so much, Emily. Like I said earlier, if anybody has any questions about the pass, feel free to drop it in the chat. One last question for today, and then we're going to pass it over to Sherelle. I just wanted to talk earlier. I mentioned the Sustainability Strategic Plan, which we are working on right now. The Office of Campus Sustainability has actually convened a number of stakeholders to help us write this plan, and Emily is one of them. So Emily, moving forward into the future with this exciting new advancement with the free public transportation, what would you like to see, happen in the next year at the university? Do you want to, continue to expand? Is it continuing to expand infrastructure like we've seen at the Ebike School of Business, or how will the university continue to promote what has happened in the last month?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, we have to continue to promote it, right? We want to make sure that we see those numbers continue to grow over time. One of the ways that we're working on that is by bringing on, we're going to have 2 campus transportation ambassadors this year. So 2 undergraduate students who are really excited to help their peers figure out how to use these different benefits. We're also working with the providers to try to figure out how we together advertise these new benefits to the campus community. We know that as powerful as a university email can be, it's also helpful to have advertising at stops and stations and on buses. So we're talking through that now. We would love to see, I would love to see, I guess, speaking personally, a reduction in some of the service cuts that some of the providers are having to make currently, because there is a decrease in traffic on some of those systems, and they're having trouble, as many are, hiring drivers. So DDOT in particular is going to make some cuts in the month of, or adjustments in the month of October, which should mean that the service is more reliable. But some of the routes that we were so excited about, like the direct routes from Southwest Detroit and the villages, so direct to campus, meaning students didn't need to go downtown from those neighborhoods and transfer to another bus to get to Midtown, right? They could come straight from those communities to campus. Those unfortunately are going to be temporarily paused, and I'd love to see them come back and for there to be even more direct routes to our campus. I think that all depends on demand from students and staff and others in our community. So I think it's both. I think it's an increase in ridership. I think it is an increase in in service levels, whether that's MOGO stations that serve particular areas of campus, or DDOT and smart routes. The Q line is working hard to try to increase the frequency of its trips, which will make that a more useful service to the campus community. So it's really all of the above from my perspective. I saw a question, as we give the campus community more options, alternatives to driving alone, what does that do to parking revenue? And I know Jon will speak on that. But I think for us, again, it's really about making sure that there are a variety of options for our campus community, so that for people who want to drive, that's great. Let's make sure they can. For people who maybe don't have a car or need to commute differently, let's make sure that they can. Speaking personally, some days I drive and other days I take transit, and moving around campus, sometimes I walk, sometimes I MOGO. I love having all of those choices at my disposal. They really enrich my campus experience. And so that's what we're trying to create for everybody.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Emily, because kind of in the beginning with sharing the commuting trends, yes, there are a majority, single occupancy vehicles that come to campus, but that is okay. You can have a very, diverse way of traveling around campus, even if you do have a car. So really making sure that all of these resources are available to everybody on campus is truly the goal. So thank you, Emily. I really appreciate. Oh, I see one more question really quick for Emily. Do you have a plan to keep riders in the wintertime up?
Great question. And the answer is yes. So MOGO is a 4-season system. It was modeled after the bike share system in Toronto. So it is weatherproof. You can get out and ride in the winter, although I will say that if it gets really cold, I I have found that it can be a little bit tough to exercise like that in the winter, but there are plenty of things that you can do, and Mogo actually offers a lot of tips on winter riding that are worth checking out. DDOT, Smart, and the Q Line all run year round, and in any major city where you have robust public transportation systems, people use them year round. So you dress for your commute, whether that's in the summer or the winter. If you're going to be a transit rider, it's important to think about things like shoe wear, right? Tennis shoes are your friend. You need to make sure that you have a good bag for carrying your things. You need to, make sure that if it's warm, you've got options. If it's cold, you've got, a coat and hat and gloves. But it's very much possible, and something that I personally have done year round.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. So I'm going to be passing it over to Sherelle Streeter now. Hi, Sherelle. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you could please introduce yourself to the audience, what your role is at the City of Detroit, and a little bit about what your office, the Office of Mobility Innovation, does.
Sure thing. Hi, Leah. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherelle Streeter, and I work as a mobility strategist at the City of Detroit's Office of Mobility Innovation. Currently, the office launches pilot programs for mobility projects. So those are projects that sit in between like the private vehicle and transit. So things related to bikes, scooters, AV, etc. Currently, I lead all of the bike-related pilot projects. So these include an e-bike leasing program targeting Detroit-based employees, a bike summit connecting us with local bike clubs, and the Detroit Bike Challenge, which we have targeting anyone who lives and or works in the city of Detroit. So I've been working closely with Leah from the campus's Office of Sustainability to promote the Detroit Bike Challenge to Wayne State community, so including staff, faculty, and students. We've been working collaboratively to outreach to the Wayne State community and the broader Detroit community, so that could be vary from sharing information on various platforms, or I know the Office of Campus Sustainability has hosted a couple of group rides that promoted biking, but also helped in promoting that challenge.
Awesome, thank you. So with the Detroit Bike Challenge, really kind of dive into a little bit more about what that is and the Love to Ride platform. This is something that the Detroit Bike Challenge, really quickly for the audience, and you can hop more into it, Sherelle. This is I believe, a new program that the City of Detroit has started, really to increase biking efforts. So Sherelle has been working on this project and promoting it not only at the university, but among organizations and businesses and residents at the City of Detroit.
Yes, that's spot on. And I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see the platform in which the challenge is hosted on. So the Detroit Bike Challenge is a 6-month initiative launched out of the office. It consisted of 2 month-long challenges, which was Bike Month and Biketober, which I'll go a little deeper into later. And then we hosted mini challenges between the months of June and September. The challenge was a response, or a part of as a response based off of first iteration of a pilot program that we launched in 2020, which was the COVID-19 response pilot. During that pilot, we, the office, rented and leased e-bikes and e-scooters to essential workers during the heights of the pandemic. So the purpose of the bike challenge is to encourage biking in the city, specifically emphasizing bike to work culture, and to support community building around biking in Detroit. So on this platform, on the Love to Ride platform, people can, and I'll just go to my profile really quickly. People can sign up to participate. It's free. You can set goals for yourself, biking goals. You can log rides. You can share photos. You can share things called stories. Essentially, this platform is like a Facebook for biking and social media for biking. So you have people writing, sharing memories about, riding events that they've been to, and we have people from our health department sharing some information about biking in colder climate, for instance, or any bike education information. They've been providing that on this platform. So that's kind of like the gist of that. Currently, we're in our final challenge month of the initiative, and it's called Biketober. It's an international challenge. So we're basically participating in this as a city with other cities across the world. Biketober, as of now, we have 634 people registered on the platform. So during this month, people will be able to log rides, set goals, and encourage others, and we'll be receiving points for that. And so as a part of this challenge, we at the office we'll be doing weekly and grand prize drawings that range from $25 to $1,000 to really incentivize people to not only register on the platform, but log rides and encourage their friends, families, neighbors, and colleagues to participate as well. So I know that, so if you live in the city, please register for the challenge at lovetoride.net/Detroit, and I'll put that in the chat. You don't have to be an experienced rider. You can be at any level of riding. You don't have to own it's not required for you to own a bike. You can rent a bike. You can use Moco Bike Share. It's open to really any and everybody to join and participate. And for the people who are part of the Wayne State Student Body, I know that there is, Leah created a group for Wayne State Student Body. So on your profile, if you register for the challenge, you can join a group. And then once you join a group, you can type in Wayne State Student Body, and you're able to connect with anybody who is associated with that group. And then for faculty and staff, you can select Wayne State University as your employer. And associating yourself with a group or an employer provides an opportunity for you to connect with members of the Wayne State community who are also biking and participating in the Detroit Bike Challenge and Biketober.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sherelle. It's really cool to see the profile live on the screen there. How many people have you had registered for the Detroit Bike Challenge? What successes are there to be shared? And also, how do you plan to kind of build on the momentum that you've started with the Bike Challenge?
Yeah, so we had right now 634 people registered for the challenge. We have 140 or so people right now logging rides for Biketober. We're trying to, continue to push efforts for people to log their rides. And then as far as just like building on the momentum that we've have, I mentioned this earlier, but what spun off from this bike challenge was the bike summit that we hosted that kicked off this September. We were able to engage with local bike clubs, really have conversations about, what are the access and barriers and support they need to continue to build on Detroit's, strengthening bike culture. We're actually hosting a celebratory event to kind of celebrate those bike clubs this upcoming Saturday. So right now we're in the process of just continuing to fostering the relationships with people who are biking in the city and brainstorming ways in which we can plan for future programming. So the Detroit Bike Challenge ends at the end of October. We'll be taking, the last couple of months of this year to really do some evaluation of all of the programs and pilots that we've launched, bike-related programs and pilots that we launched this year, and then understand how we can, provide better programming and projects next year. So we'll be releasing a report about all of the things, initiatives that we've done early 2022.
Awesome. That's great news. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think alongside Wayne State University participating in the Bike Challenge, what other large, I guess, organizations or institutions that are alike the university have been a part of the Bike Challenge? I believe I saw Henry Ford, the health system, being registered. Did they see, is there any like outcomes of what you've seen an increase in ridership there?
Yeah, so we have been working closely with Henry Ford Health Systems for both the challenge and our e-bike leasing program. So we have, I don't have the specific data, that's more so is going to come out for that for that report. But we do see people using alternative modes of transportation more, based on the e-bike leasing program and the challenge. We've been also working to understand how we can, work with many stakeholders moving forward to provide any type of maybe education, maybe working alongside our health department as well, to provide bike education, because that's like one of the biggest hurdles, even in a survey that we released for the Bike Summit, is there's some gaps in like bike safety education. And so what we're trying to do is understanding within our office how we can help facilitate in filling those gaps. And in conversation with Henry Ford, we trying to collaborate to understand what we can do to work to kind of build self-efficacy around biking for Henry Ford employees and other stakeholder employees.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I just wanted to bring up if there was any kind of comparison there in being a large organization. So if you all are interested in the Detroit Bike Challenge, Sherelle will share that information with you. It's a really cool platform. I'm on there, our office is on there. You can see, how much we've been biking. You can also interact with people socially on the platform as well. So it's a really kind of neat way to be able to connect with folks who also bike and use transit. So the last couple of minutes here, if anybody would like to raise their hand and ask a question to the three speakers that we've had today, please do. Thank you, Jon, Emily, and Sherelle for joining us today. It's been a slew of very valuable information that we are happy to share coming from the Office of Campus Sustainability. I did want to, if there's no questions, I wanted to plug Todd Scott, who is on the call right now. He's the executive director of the Detroit Greenways Coalition, which is Todd, I don't know if you're here to join us today, but I just wanted to, uplift your voice and also the work that you do at Detroit Greenways. And I'll drop the link to that website right now in the chat. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what's happening, not only on campus, but citywide, as it goes to, biking and public transportation, that's a really, really wonderful website to stay engaged with.
Thanks, Leah. And I was going to add too, we do have some bike counters along Cass Avenue. So if Wayne State's interested in getting that data, I can get that and send it to you. It tells you about how many bicyclists are using Cass Avenue.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. Well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to the Office of Campus Sustainability. I will drop my email in the chat for everybody. If you would like to save that and follow up on any of the information that was shared today, I would be happy to share it with you again. And there was also a question about if this presentation is going to be shared out to all the participants. Yes, it is. We are going to upload it to our YouTube channel, Wayne State Office of Campus Sustainability on YouTube. I can also share that link with all the participants. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Emily, Jon, and Sherelle. Really, really appreciate your time here today. And we hope that you all have gained some wonderful information and if you're a first time user or if you're, a frequent public transit user, you continue to use those services. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks, Leah.